Hello, everybody, and welcome to the December 17th Trips and Traps, a rare solo Trips and Traps. Richard Migliore has the day off. Andy Serling in the studio. We're going to take a look at 5 races from last week, and we're going to start out with a race from last Thursday. That's December 10th. It's the 5th race. There's not anything serious to talk about specifically in this race. We're going to talk about the 7 Narvaez, who finishes 3rd in this race. The race was dominated on the front end by Rockford, winning his 2nd straight race and running well. The reason I wanted to show this race was that I think there's a possibility, a relatively strong possibility, that the rail was subtly pretty good on December 10th. And I thought this race was a good illustration of that. And maybe a race to look at. Narvaez, a horse who's wide, chasing the entire way. If the rail was good, he was against it for the 2nd time in a row. And if the rail was good that day, you may want to take a look at other horses throughout the day. And sometimes I just want to pick a race out of a day where I think there may have been a bias that some people or a lot of people might not have picked up on. You see Narvaez is out chasing in the 4-path. Well, frankly, even on a fair racetrack, this is a pretty hard thing to do, especially on the inner. You've got a race dominated towards the front end, a race that is a track that's possibly favoring the inside, and you've got Narvaez who's chasing wide the entire way. Well, Rockford is a little off the rail here, but he's taking advantage of it. The 5 tries to come up the rail, finding Candy. Rockford just outruns him. And I thought, all things considered, Narvaez made a reasonable run at the end to finish a pretty close 3rd, beaten just about a length and a half for all the money. And you think of all the ground loss and the possibility that you wanted to be inside on this racetrack, I think all around a pretty decent effort by Narvaez, who's been a little bit unlucky in his recent starts. And if he was in a similar field, I think if it was more fairly run, he'd have a chance to turn the tables. We'll see if that's the case going forward. The next race we're going to look at is the 7th race, and this is from December 11th. And there's a spill at the start. Inside straight will lose Jose Ortiz, who fortunately was fine, won a boatload of races, and came back and actually rode the next few races. I want to talk about the heavy favorite, Vincento. You see Irad's turning his head. Now he's looking to his right while the other rider's looking to his left. Obviously, he's realizing something happened. He looks over, but I don't believe that this affected the horse. He's not a speed horse. And you'll see that Irad saves ground. He has the inside position. I think a couple of things happened to Vincento, and I want to talk about it because this was a heavy favorite that really didn't run very well. I think 2 things, a number of things going on. I think you'll see Irad is asking this horse a little bit here just to stay, sort of keep in contact with the field. He's riding early, which is something he often doesn't do. And I also wonder, he sees the loose horse, he'll go by, they all see him. I think a lot of riders may have been concerned about the loose horse, and they justifiably should be. But I also feel like Irad may have thought to himself, I'm not so sure this horse is really running well inside. Maybe I need to get him off the rail to make a run. So he eases him back a little bit and gets to the outside. I think it's a very fair decision because the horse does kind of take off better when he gets him to the outside. The problem is he loses ground. What's interesting is the winner, who's right here, and that's Dylan Davis, he comes up the rail at almost 50-1 and gets it done. And I think a lot of riders were worried about the 1, and justifiably so, the horse who's loose on the inside. But Dylan perseveres inside. It pays off for him. I think Irad, though, went more towards the outside because he probably thought the horse was better running out in the clear. In my opinion, he didn't have a bad trip. Keep in mind the horse in purple inside of him, the 7, Charming Indy, actually finishes 2nd. So it's not as though this was a complete inside race because the 6 came through towards the inside. I don't think Vincento is a 2-turn horse. It's a horse that broke his maiden first time out. And you see the winner actually steadying behind horses there and altering course towards the rail. The winner had won his debut at a mile, around 1 turn. Now, even though he's a half the dad's caps and another horse who's a decent sprinter, they went long with him first time, so he's more of a long-winded type. He also got a very contentious pace in his debut. So while he was visually impressive, he took advantage of race dynamics to win his debut. It was also a 1-turn mile, and I wonder if this is a horse that you saw the possibility that maybe he wasn't running well inside of horses, that he's just a horse that will be more effective going around 1 turn. It's problematic on the inner because if they don't feel that he's competitive going 6 furlongs, they have no choice but to try around 2 turns. Personally, I'd love to see them turn him back to 6. Maybe if he gets lucky and gets in a race with some pace, I think the turn back would help him. Otherwise, I'm very dubious of betting Vincento going forward on the inner going 2 turns. And I'm not sure he's not a little dressed up of his maiden win. But it'll be interesting to see where he goes next time. The only race I'd be inclined to take any chance with him, if I did, would be if he tried a 1-turn, 6-furlong race and took a shot. One more race, I think. Actually, this is the 7th race again. Looking at a number of 7th races. This is from the next race, next day, December 12th. And a couple of things I want to talk about. I want to talk about integrity at the start. Number 8, integrity. Who is a price in here? 10-1. But this is a very competitive field. Once he breaks slowly, and if you can leave it frozen for a second, I'd appreciate it. Once he breaks slowly, the race is over for him. It's a contentious pace, a strong pace, and any chance he has for early position is lost, and he breaks slowly. Kendrick Carmouche does as good a job as he can to get him in position, but he ends up chasing wide the entire way, which led to his 9th place finish, or 8th place finish. The other horse that I think we want to talk about more is the 2 Farhan. Now, Farhan is going to end up taking back, doing all the right things. He's a closer. He's got good position, he's got an inside post. Now he ends up back in last. Not that big a deal. They went a wicked 46 4.5. You don't see that in a lot of two-turn races, mile and 70 yards. Keep in mind, though, these were good horses, as integrity is constantly out of position trying to gain ground. Now, the eventual winner is actually here. He got more position because he has more tactical speed. So in his situation, the rider didn't have to do a ton of work with him. He was in the right spot. He's letting him run a little bit, but he's not exactly riding him hard. Farhan dropped so far back early that at this point, and this is before the half-mile pole, Angel Royal has already asked him to get in the race. Now, maybe that was the right choice, maybe it wasn't. But I think a lot of people felt this horse got badly stopped in the stretch, and that's why he didn't continue on and win or finish second. I don't agree, and we're going to show you some head-on views that suggest that it's not true that he was badly stopped. I think that he was asked to get into the race prematurely, aggressively ridden, as you can see here. He's really riding him to get in there. The 5-hour caravan, he's supposed to know is a closer, first time for Rudy Rodriguez. Now the rider, his rider starts asking him. Farhan's inside of him, but Silvera's not going to necessarily let him out easily. Now he comes to make a hole in here. This is the key moment, and we're going to watch the head-on where he theoretically got stopped. He did not get stopped. You see the 8 come out, that's integrity, but he had room to get through. He may have been a little intimidated getting through, but I believe that if he had more horse, he would have burst through that hole. He was a little blind switched, but at the end of the day, I think he ran on towards the end because he was just a race that was kind of coming apart, and I think he had to expend too much energy early to get himself into the race. And I say this, there he is right here between, and you're going to see that he has room to get through. There's room right there. Now, the 8 comes over, but there was room for him to get through. He's going to run better in the clear. Once again, I do very well if he finishes first or second with our caravan in this race, so I'm not, this was a bad beat for me if, in fact, he was unlucky. I don't think he was unlucky. I think he got a fast pace to close into. I think he saved a lot of ground. I just think because of his early position or whatever decisions were made, he made his move a little bit early, and he lacked the closing kick, whereas our caravan, because of more natural speed, was able to be more forwardly placed and therefore had a better chance towards the end of the race because he didn't have to be used as much to get into the race. You can disagree. There's a lot of different ways to look at it, but I don't believe that Farhan got badly stopped in the stretch, and I think that the evidence bears that out. Let's go towards Sunday and take a look at 2 races. And I think Sunday's another day where subtly the inside got pretty good. I want to talk about the eventual third-place finisher, the 6, doing what she likes. When Eric Cancel rode her to victory at Belmont, it was coming on the heels of Saratoga, where he had a huge meet, and one of the reasons he was successful was and if we leave this stop for a second, was because he rode aggressively. This was a horse that, based on pace figures, should have been sitting 3rd in this race. At this point, he can easily drop towards the rail and get that position behind the leaders in this race. That's the position you want. Get inside the 8, get that position. The rider of the 8, Lots of Noodles, Ira Ortiz, did a sensational job of getting his position going forward. Eric Cancel, on doing what she likes, he gets a little steady, there's no horse outside of him, comes over on him. That's Swift Taylor, who couldn't beat the 6 in a match race if they tried it 100 times. This is an example of a rider getting his position going backwards. And he effectively eliminated any chance whatsoever he had in the race because he's actually supposed to be here, and he's back there. And he hasn't expended less energy. He's just simply, and you can see him, he's tugging on the reins, he's out of position. Very shortly, he's going to be on even terms with Lady Grace Note. If I climbed into a horse suit, I might be able to be on even terms with Lady Grace Note in the backstretch. This is a horse, because he wasn't ridden the way she should have been out of the gate for position, and there was no reason not to get it, found herself back. Now, perhaps it was trainer instruction, said, I want to take her all the way back. I know she won a race in the front end 2 back and has been effective closing, but let's try her from last. This is a race that's dominated towards the front end. The winner is the horse that's lapped on. Lots of Noodles finishes second. And, yes, doing what she likes, save some ground, too wide here, ducks to the inside at this point, and will end up finishing second. But at the end of the day, she was just given way too much to do, and the way the dynamics of the race played out, she was put in a position where she couldn't win from back there, even with some ground saving. The point is, she should have been where the 8 was, and I think it's entirely possible, given the run she made and the way the race played out, where nobody else made any kind of run whatsoever. I think it's entirely possible, if she's forwardly placed, she actually wins this race. Just given way too much to do at the end. I don't know what to do with her going forward. Similar spot. I'd love to see her ridden differently. I'd love to rerun this race and see her get a different ride and see if she would have won. It's not even a question of betting. It's a question of seeing if, in fact, it would have worked out. But this was an example of getting bad position, going backwards. The second-place finisher got her position going forward. Race number 7. This is a race that's won by the Big Deluxe. And this is a very interesting break because the Big Deluxe, the gray, doesn't break. But this horse, Call Daddy, breaks very well. The Big Deluxe is all the way back here. Keep a careful eye on the rider of the 6, Call Daddy. Once he gets the lead, he's taken this horse in hand. The problem is he's failing to realize that the heavy favorite, the Big Deluxe's speed, he's going to come after him. By the time the Big Deluxe comes after him, first of all, stop it if you can, Jose. Sorry, I kind of messed this up. This is Chapman. Go back and watch this again when you get a chance and leave it froze for a second. Chapman, when the 6 horse takes a hold and ducks over the inside, Chapman is going to have to get shuffled back behind him. Harry Hernandez takes a hold of him. It takes Chapman completely out of the race. If the 6 had kept going forward, Chapman wouldn't have steadied behind him. He'd have been right in the pocket behind him. The 6 would have been in front, the 7 would have been outside of him, and Chapman would have been in here. Instead, the 6 is behind the 8 ball. He's playing catch-up. Chapman gets completely shuffled out of the race, and the entire race dynamic changes because the rider took a little bit of a hold of Call Daddy, and in doing so, he didn't anticipate that the 6-7 horse was going to come, and Chapman now swings wide, and it was a good rail, so he couldn't close on the outside. Yeah, Call Daddy saved ground, did some things right, but by easing up on him so quickly in that race, it allowed the Big Deluxe to very fastly take control of a race when he was off last. If he had kept going forward, the Big Deluxe was never catching him in early. Now, would Call Daddy have won the race? I don't know, and he comes close to winning as it was, so it's hard to be too critical of the ride. And I'm not trying to be critical of the ride. I'm trying to explain what happened in this race. And really the victim here was Chapman. Because Chapman, through no fault of his own, when the 6 kind of eased back a little, got shuffled back behind him. And it took Chapman out of the race, who was off the claim for David Jacobson. If you liked him here, you might want to give him a chance next time. But he's a horse without a legit excuse based on what happened early in this race. Once again, we can always use your help on Trips and Traps. I'm not sure. We may be taking a little bit of a hiatus. We'll see what happens with Trips and Traps. We'll certainly be back at some point. And if you have races to point them out, let us know at tripsandtraps@NYRInc.com.